So, first, I showed the video of Patrick Melton and his suffering. He apparently is getting a restraining order filed against him by Aaron Imholt and in regards to his kids because of all the statements that Patrick Melton made. He was the one that I played. It was like a 3-minute clip set to weird music where he was saying really gross shit, in particular about Aaron Imholt's kids. Apparently he's getting a restraining order filed against him by Aaron. So now he's trying to go dark, which is unfortunate because he could have gotten onto Juju's show if he really tried, but he's given up, I guess. He's given up. Nick Rekieta has gotten into a slap fight with Brianna Wu, of all fucking people. Brianna Wu posted this picture saying, "Good morning to my fellow Zionists, let's make it a good one." And then there's a picture of Princess Peach holding, I can't remember, might be an AR-15 in front of the Israeli flag, covered in blood. And then it says, "Excited to announce I have retained the best lawyer in the business, Rekieta Law, in case Nintendo sues me." Nick Rekieta is unparalleled in legal mind, and a legal mind of the highest caliber. He's higher than all the lawyers on Nintendo's staff. So for no reason whatsoever, Brianna Wu has decided to start making fun of Nick Rekieta. Nick Rekieta responded by saying, "Good dad joke, probably from when you were a man." Wu replied saying, "How much cocaine did you do to come up with that one?" And then Rekieta goes back and forth and says, "I used your testosterone levels as a guide," which doesn't make any sense as a reply. Completely nonsensical. Wu says, "That's not true because I don't make any testosterone, and you've done so much cocaine that your children get high too. I might be a filthy tranny, but I've never endangered my own child to the point where the state is going to take them away." Rekieta Law says, "Neither did I," implying that they're not taken away already. Brianna Wu says, "Well, that's not what the drug tests say. Maybe just raging cocaine addiction runs in the family." Rekieta says, "You know less about drug testing than you do about having a penis." And Brianna Wu says, "That's definitely true, but I do know just enough to not give a child cocaine. I'm willing to adopt, and I'm giving them a loving cocaine-free home." So what he did afterwards, this is where he's at, like, relatively, is that Rekieta has still not streamed. So after he lost the Frank's hearing, and it was preemptively denied raising any further motions, he's just kind of like slunk off and like occasionally zeets, and then he shows up in this guy's chat called Zumok. I have never fucking heard of this guy. I have no fucking idea who Zumok is. But he's like a fucking LawTube streamer or some shit. Like literally no fucking idea who he is. But then Rekieta shows up and he starts super chatting this guy to argue with him. He says, "For $20, I've never heard of you before. Aaron talked about me as if you mattered. You never ever will to me. But holy shit, did you damage his brain?" Then he says for 10, "Lamau, you think you can embarrass me? You're an amateur at embarrassing me. I'm the best." And then for 5, he says, "The only reason I know you is Aaron Imholt." They had further messages that they pulled from the live stream. And he says, "Why would I... let's see, is this in the right order? Yes. Why would I take you to court? I'd say the same thing if I was you." And then he says, "I would say the same thing about me. My pasture, asking for clips, raffle, tattoos. Are you the 16-8? Have you had your Centrum Silver? Just see how you do, then figure it out. You need to try harder. Lamau, let the government take your kids for a bit and then pretend someone like Chad can hurt you. Find the unedited clip of that speech and listen to me praise her. I live those kids more than anything on the planet, always have. Lamau, I've never neglected my kids, brother. The truth will always set you free." So he's in the chat of like some random fucking guy, literally nobody has ever heard of, besides like 1 or 2 people on the forum, right? And then he's paying money. He paid this guy $35 fucking dollars to talk to him, just to whine about his misconceptions about him or some shit. Rekieta is now in such a low place that he has to like pay people to acknowledge him in chat. Like he's no longer even... like people won't even just talk to him on their own anymore. He has to like financially compensate them for their time to even be worth it. That's fucking sad. Like, I remind you, there was a point where Rekieta was... Sorry, I got a fizzy water. Rekieta was so on top of the game that his 100,000 concurrent live viewer streams had a panel of lawyers, accredited bar associates, on a panel on live stream for like 8 hours at a fucking time for free. He was so popular, lawyers would donate their time to sit next to him on live stream. And now Rekieta in 2024 has to pay people $35 to even get his chat messages read. That is what fucking happens. That is the downfall. It's gonna make a really interesting downfall video one of these days. Josh, he is a lawyer and it's the business. I mean, yeah, I understand what they're doing. I'm not confused about that. I'm just saying that they were willing to associate with him for free. Lawyers are pretty hard to get to do anything for free. Then, not to be one-upped and being cringe, this is April Imholt. She posted to her Instagram and TikTok this lovely tattoo. It's a Valkyrie, and she got it because Nick Rekieta's nickname for her is Valkyrie. Now, I'm not like a tattoo person, and I'm not going to say that I could do better. I don't like it. I'll put it like that. I'm not going to say like, oh, the art's bad. I'm going to say it like this. I think it's ugly. I wouldn't get it. Now, there's two different... I actually thought about this before the stream, and I was thinking I should make a joke about this, but then I came up with two different jokes, so I'm going to play both of them. You ready? The first one is, I'll just say it. So April told Rekieta, you better buy me a $4,000 sleeve tattoo so that you can't ever not see it, and so that anytime Kayla sees me, she's going to know that you're dropping like tens of thousands of dollars to buy me presents still. Or, alternatively, Rekieta got the tattoo for her because it's really ugly, and he wants to make her uglier so that she can never leave him. No, I'm debating, but I'm leaning that's funnier if Rekieta is like intentionally giving her bad tattoos so that she looks like Anisa Joma, and then nobody will ever fuck her again. So she doesn't have a choice. She has to stay with him. She's the best that she can do. And this is the most interesting stuff this stream is going to be the two filings. First, this is Kayla's filing. Kayla is not being processed the same as Rekieta. They are two different defendants, so they get to make their own motions. Now, Rekieta fucked up his motions and lost all of his rights to raise certain defenses. Kayla has not. So Kayla's attorney has asked for a motion to suppress and a motion to dismiss. And she's going to say that suppressing all evidence, statements, and confessions as a result of the state's unlawful search of the defendant's home as the result of a defective search warrant. The search warrant was defective because it was based on insufficient probable cause to believe a controlled substance would be found in the residence. So this is a much different angle than what Rekieta did, where Rekieta saying, no, the JPEGs are wrong. You can see the backyard internet logo. This is altered. That's fucking gay and retarded. This is a little bit more reasonable. It feels like a long shot, but it's more reasonable. Where they're just saying that, sure, he might have seen what looked like cocaine on Rekieta's nose, and sure, he might have heard stories that there was cocaine in the house. But just because Rekieta was drunk on stream does not mean that he had probable cause to raid the home and get drugs. Sounds like a long shot to me, but it's less fucking retarded and less like you can tell with Rekieta's stuff that he thinks he's a genius and he's going to find like some technical workaround to ever being held accountable for breaking the law. And then Kayla is like fighting within the system because her attorney's not a fucking is not himself, is not Rekieta. So it's more grounded. So that's what they filed. And then on Rekieta's side, this came in just today. So you listening to this are probably hearing this for the first time. This is the breaking news. Rekieta filed for something called a petition for discretionary review. You've never heard of a petition for discretionary review. In a federal appellate court, it's called an interlocutory appeal. And it basically means that he wants to file an appeal for the Franks hearing. I predicted this, even though lawyers told me that that doesn't make any sense. Because let me explain, and it doesn't make sense to a lawyer, but it makes sense to me. And I'll explain, it would probably make sense to you, but this filing is actually retarded in a way that you don't really understand. I had somebody explain it to me. You know who. So an interlocutory appeal is an appeal that interrupts a proceeding and pauses it until it's concluded. In Minnesota, it's called a discretionary review, and it's called a discretionary review for an important reason I will circle back to. Actually, oh yeah, so usually what happens is, if there's an issue in a criminal proceeding, what you want to do is you want to complete the entire criminal case. And then, once the criminal case is completed, you can then file an appeal, and that appeal usually handles everything. So everything you have a grievance with during the entire criminal process is handled at that appeal after the sentencing. An interlocutory appeal is what they call an unfavored motion because it interrupts proceedings, which the courts never want to do, and handles only one thing at a time. And also, if you are found innocent, well, there's no fucking point to having an interlocutory appeal because you're innocent. There's nothing to worry about. So it's like, why even bother interrupting the case before it's concluded to trial? Because you might get off anyways. So let's just wait and then handle it later. There's a couple instances where you want to do an interlocutory appeal in a criminal case, as it was explained to me. The first is usually the state files it. If, for instance, if the judge had actually granted Rekieta's stupid-ass Franks hearing and said, oh, okay, the case is dropped, then the state can then file an interlocutory appeal because the case is over if they lose that Franks hearing, basically. And then the Minnesota Appeals Court would actually review if that granting was correct and then could possibly overturn it and put the evidence back into play. And then you would have to go to court anyways. The other case is if double jeopardy. If you've been found innocent already, and then they try to convict you on a similar crime related to the same incident, that's double jeopardy. And you don't actually want to go through trial because that would be punishment in and of itself for something that you're constitutionally protected from. So it makes sense to file an interruptive appeal that would stop the proceedings because you've already gone through it, right? So those are the two instances where you file this. Rekieta has filed this completely incorrectly. It's technically he has the right to, but in the justice system, they call this an unfavored motion, where it's like they don't want you to do this because they don't want to deal with it this way. They have a way that they prefer to do it, and if you go out of your way to file something like this, you better be fucking right. You better have a fucking reason for it. Rekieta doesn't. So I want to point out that this is actually really sloppy and shitty, and a lot of this feels copy-pasted. There's a font change right here, and it's really obvious that everything following Pomplin below is copied from another document, and my suspicion is that they copied a lot of the actual Franks hearing paperwork into this. So this is original for the what's it called? The discretionary review, and then this is copy pasted from the Franks hearing, which was already denied, which is kind of a bad sign that you're just going to reiterate everything that you already got denied for and not change anything, because it's like you already lost, so it doesn't bode well for you. And then, so this is all shit that I've already gone over before. This is back to the original font, so I know that this is the copy pasted section and this is the new stuff. But they basically just say that they reiterate, they fucked all that up. There are some paragraphs in this that are light gray as opposed to black, and that also makes it look like it was being copy-pasted from something else. These citations are wrong, by the way. Citing the... No, not that one. The thing where they say, a more perfect Reich, citing Steel Toe Morning Show. So that's not how you cite evidence in a case, but that's how they chose to do it. So the word Reich appears in this document approximately 10 times, and I find that funny on a personal level. But a lot of this is all just reiterating the exact same shit we've already read, that he believes that Officer Pomplin lied to the judge and received a search warrant that he would not have received if he did not lie, and his lie was that he saw the original video, and there's specific terminology that they're quibbling over that only makes sense if you take that paragraph out of context, because he uses the same language in the above paragraph, and it makes perfect sense what he's saying. And then knowing how he uses those words in the second paragraph, it makes perfect sense what he's saying there. And the only way it has any ambiguity is if you take it out of context, which is why the judge explicitly said when he denied the Franks hearing that there was no ambiguity, specifically because of that. Like, exactly what I said is what ended up in the denial. So they're going to force the appeals court judge to read the search warrant, realize that it's a very competent search warrant, and then maybe even watch the video of Rekieta fucked out of his mind, and then deny him again. Now, here's the other thing. Here's the big deal, by the way. The petition is called, it's not called an interlocutory appeal in Minnesota, it's called a discretionary review, which is an important word because it is, as it's called, discretionary. And what does that mean? It means that there's not a formal process for this. It's not a checklist. You say, okay, well, this appeal has A, B, C, therefore we're going to look at it. It's 100% discretionary, to the point where the judge could absolutely say, you know what, I think you're right. This Franks hearing should have gone ahead. In fact, I think that search warrant should have been thrown out. But no. They can literally say, I think you're right, but we're not going to use our discretion to give you this. Wait until after your trial and then file it as an appeal like a normal person would. So it's completely up to the judge. It's like 2 layers of extraordinary. Like, it's an extraordinary thing to file an interlocutory appeal. It has to be like they're really trampling your civil rights. And then it's extraordinary to file a Franks hearing. And then it's also extraordinary to go for a discretionary review. So my thought is that Rekieta came up with this, went to his attorney, who then put associate attorney Brian K. Lunas. It's not Francis White. This is the associate attorney. So he put the low end of the totem pole in this one. And then Rekieta pitched his idea for a discretionary review because his rights are totally heckin' being trampled on. And Francis White asked him, do you have your deposit? And then Rekieta says, yeah, we're totally selling the house. I put another reverse mortgage on it that I'm totally going to pay off once it sells. I got your deposit. And then Francis White was like, okay, we'll file your discretionary review. And this is what we now have in front of us. It is a very, very desperate motion. And like I said, the main thing is I expected him to appeal, but the thing that I didn't know is that you're not supposed to appeal a criminal case until after you're convicted. They don't like it when you try to appeal things as they're proceeding. So that's the discrepancy there. But he's totally going to epically own us, chat, one day. Great. So that's the cool Rekieta law update. 11th Circuit produces, I passed the bar and can now legally laugh at Nick Rekieta for being a non-practicing retard. All the money he is spending on that interlocutory appeal is ultimately being spent on our entertainment. It's absolutely... No, he's totally going to prove us wrong. Don't worry about it. It's totally innocent.